ahead and pass it, it means that counties within the northern Kenya will be underserved in terms of infrastructure development projects, because some of the money will be taken to other counties, which political pundits, actually governance experts, argue that already these counties that stand to benefit, the 29 counties, some of them are already developed, so they do not need all that money. And that is why we've seen some senators crossing paths with some of their colleagues whose counties are supposed to benefit, saying that they do not want that one man, one shilling vote in terms of money to be taken to their county. So a crucial day for all the 18 governors in 18 counties that have been affected, a crucial day for all the 47 senators who are supposed to make a very important decision this afternoon on the floor of the House at the Senate Assembly. Once again, welcome to the program. My name is Brenda Zederadido. Now, members of parliament from the pastoralist communities have piled pressure on President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga to intervene so that no county loses money ahead of today's vote in the Senate. Compounded by the delay in disbursement of funds from the Treasury, the Senate impasse is also threatening to paralyze county operations further.
Once again, making a clarion call to our senators as they are about to make history again, to stand by their earlier decision and defy divisive politics that will destroy this country and damage the rights of the marginalized citizens of this country. We are tired of this marginalization. They are bringing a new sensational paper number 10 of 1965 turu kina Kangata na kina Moses Kuria, na hiyo sisi tunakataa. Wewe ndo president wa nchi, tunataka tupata haki yetu. Kama hutaki tupata haki yetu, tusisumbuane na nchi yetu hii Kenya, tuachane. Hakuna haja kusumbuana. Kana hiyo Central Kenya wasema sisi tunataka Kenya yetu pande lingine. Some of us who are living with this political cloud of BBI. Therefore, there is no doubt that the politics of BBI is playing some influence over this matter. But besides that, I must say that this matter is very personal to every senator.
No county should lose. They should be appropriately compensated. But that should not also stop the formula moving forward. It should move forward so long as these ones are compensated. Next year, hopefully, with the passing of BBI, which is giving us 35 plus, then that will be able to take care.
All right, so you've heard it from leaders from the northern Kenya, just, agreeing with what governance experts are saying, that northern Kenya is highly underserved in terms of infrastructure and development projects. But meanwhile, Commission on Revenue Allocation says it is indeed a complicated process to determine an appropriate formula for revenue sharing. CRA chairperson Dr. Jen Kiringai says it would be practical to implement the proposed formula since equitable allocation to counties remains 316 billion shillings as it were in the last fiscal year.
On implementation of the proposed that basis, the Commission, aware of the likely impact of the new revenue sharing in terms of allocation to counties, made a provision for cushioning all the counties that were likely to see a decline of more than 5% in their equitable share. This cushioning provision would be achieved through an increase in the equitable share allocation to counties. The Commission notes that since the submission of the recommendation in April 2019, two important things have happened that make it complicated, the process of determining the basis for the Senate.
Right, so we've heard it from the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Speaking immediately after yesterday, Ukur Yatani, CS for Treasury, said that the government Treasury has already disbursed 29.9 billion, which is approximately 30 billion to the counties. That is money for the last financial year. And now this financial year, money is yet to be disbursed because the CS says that they're waiting for that crucial decision that the Senate is supposed to make this afternoon. So now let's have this conversation with Dr. Churchill Saoke, governance expert. And Dr. let's just begin this conversation by, that decision that was made yesterday by Treasury, a day before members of the Senate makes that crucial decision on how funds will be disbursed to the 47 counties.
Thanks, Zeda, and thanks for having me in this conversation. I think we have to appreciate the fact that the decision to disburse the funds by Treasury, I think it is good because one of the fears that we initially had that the counties were going to be paralyzed if the revenue formula is delayed but due to the differences that is happening within the Senate. And so it was going to delay those disbursement of the funds, which was going to bring about some sort of paralysis within the county operation. So I think that initial disbursement for me, it is good enough, and it was necessary, even as Senate continues to debate the formula with which to distribute the funds amongst the 47 counties.
But even as much as all eyes are on the Senate, especially 18 counties, stand losing money, the proposed revenue sharing formula will see allocation to less populated, marginalized county reduced, while the sharing of those with bigger population will increase. This is something that leaders from the North Kenya region have actually opposed.
Absolutely, and that is expected. And I first have to admit, Brenda, that this is a very complicated matter. It is complicated because it is a mix of politics and economics. And when you're looking at the core of politics is distribution of resources. And when you look at the spirit of devolution, the spirit of devolution was that we needed to upscale the areas that have been underdeveloped. And we need resources down into the counties and into the areas that have never received resources since the independence, when Kenya became independent. And so the intent of devolution was to ensure that these resources are distributed into some of these areas. And that is now one side of the coin. Now, the other side of the coin is that while the more populated areas like counties, like you look at the counties like Nairobi and Kiambu, they are well populated, there are a lot of resources, there are a lot of infrastructure that have been invested and have been built over the years since independence. And that being so, while there is still disparity within poverty levels, you look at, for example, Nairobi, when you look at the people in Karen, the places they go to the hospital is different from the people in Kibera, where they go to the hospital. And so it is a complicated question. And I think that the debate that is happening in the Senate is extremely important. We need to look at how do we ensure that we meet the needs of, we do not necessarily look at the populated areas as people who have benefited from resources and are people who are now supposed to get less resources from the county now. And at the same time, we do not just look at the less populated areas like Northeastern as mere land masses. So this is a complicated question that needs not just a debate that should end now, but it's something that should even go beyond the Senate and should actually be headed even to Parliament.
It's a notion of 1 shilling, 1 man, disbursement of funds cannot work because it clearly goes to favor counties that have already developed.
Well, that is on one side, and we at this stage, for me, I think that we need to look at how we build the capacity of the counties in the northern areas and the less developed areas, because one of the things that when the devolution was being implemented, our hope was that Nairobi and the major cities in this country was going to be decentralized. and people are going to go into the areas that have been less inhabited. And so one of the ways in which a country does that is to accelerate development in some of those areas. And you accelerate development in areas like that by ensuring that the key amenities that people need exist. So if we do not focus on building infrastructure and building the fiscal effort and developing the less populated areas, then we are telling people that don't go there. Come to where you can easily get hospitals in your close reach.
So now we are seeing that 4 senators whose counties were supposed to benefit from this proposed formula, the new the third basis formula, have decided to cross camp and join the Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja's camp, who are opposing the revenue formula. What does it actually say about today's discussion on the floor of the House?
I think people are beginning to realize that this needs to, the senators could be beginning to see sobriety of thought, that there is need to see this just beyond the population and see it on a much broader scope. They are beginning to see that we need to accelerate these developments of some of these areas in the best interest of Kenya. And I think that, well, of course, there is politics also under play. There are undercurrents of politics that are influencing some of those decisions that are being made by some of these senators, because there are political implications that some of the kingpins are not likely to stomach. But that being so, my thesis is that they could be beginning to see objectively the need to empower the less developed areas and to just go beyond, the sensational thinking of one man, one vote. And I think, Brenda, the moment that we branded this whole issue as a one man, one vote, I mean 1 man, 1 shilling, and 1 shilling, 1 square kilometer, we actually lost the point completely. We lost the point completely, and we made it extremely sensational. Because, now when a politician begins to see that 1 man, 1 shilling, the people in the villages are going to begin to view that we are actually losing money.
But then,
go ahead.
I was about to tell you, let me just say what the CRA chair, Dr. Kiringai, says, and this is what, let me just quote what she said. She says that the third basis formula puts health needs, physical responsibility and population as the most important consideration, as opposed to the poverty index, as the case with the second formula. Clearly, it shows that even CRA itself is somewhat opposing this new formula that the Senate that some of the senators are proposing.
The CRA, for me, I think that the CRA's formula was much more objective, and it was based on, because we criticized their second basis on grounds that it did not necessarily follow functions. And I think that it did not necessarily follow the devolved functions. And I think that in their third basis, they tried to ensure that somehow their distribution formula was based on functions, so that money follows the functions. And I think that health being one of the key functions that have been devolved, they then therefore decided to put much more emphasis on health and ensuring that the county governments, and I mean the counties, are able to be well placed in terms of healthcare to their people. And I think for me that was much more objective, because we are then putting a basis on the functions that is devolved. And so that means that moving forward, even once the funds have been disbursed, we can then be able to put the chief executives of the counties accountable on how they have used the funds, on the basis of how have you used these funds based on what we had distributed, based on what we had given these funds for, which was on health. And so the indicators for the use of these funds will be very easy to monitor. as just opposed to just saying that just one man, one man, 1 shilling, which you do not know where this 1 shilling is going to.
I don't know where this 1 shilling is going to. When you say that, I just remember that debate, that intense debate that Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja gave his sentiments during last week's Tuesday's meeting at the Senate. But then now let's go back to what happens should the senators once again fail to agree? Because this is not the first time that they will either agree or disagree on this. But what happens should they fail to agree? Will the Treasury go back to the Supreme Court's decision that they need to be disbursing 50% of the funds based on the last financial year?
Well, that could be an option. That could be a technical option that that maybe the Treasury could be able to use. But then I think that for me, at this level, this is a political decision that has to be made. And it's being a political decision that has to be made, there is need for the top political leaders of the country to come together and show political leadership on the direction that they want some of these issues to go. And I think that we cannot go without saying that if this debate stalls, then the top leadership, the top political leaderships across the political divide of this country would have failed the people of Kenya. Because some of these people are their loyalists, some of these people listen to them, and it is necessary that they steer, they understand the vision of devolution, they understand the cries of the people, they understand what is in the best interest of the people, and also they understand the vision of this country. And so it is their silence will be betrayal to this country, their silence will be a betrayal to even the people of Kenya. And I think that it might be necessary that if a stalemate continues in the Senate, they show leadership. That being so, the other thing is that the senators might, when you look at the second basis formula, for me, I think that what CRA actually proposed was, CRA was actually established in the understanding that revenue sharing is extremely emotive, is extremely political, is extremely, it has far-reaching consequences. And then, therefore, the fact that they had come through a long process of coming up with this third basis formula, I think the Senate really was very unfair to begin sensationally debating some of these recommendations that they had made at this late stage, when they already even had quite some time to give their recommendations even earlier before as CRA began. So for me, I think that even if the worst was to come to the worst, the country should actually go with what CRA had proposed.
If the worst comes to the worst, Dr. as we wind up this conversation, let's look at it from a political angle. So the better part of last week, we saw some coastal leaders, politically attacking the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, saying that he's left them out when it comes to this new proposal because they stand to lose. In a brief, just in a minute, kindly tell us what this means politically for the ODM leader and also for President Uhuru Kenyatta, because even some senators from Jubilee opposing this new proposal.
Well, the senators from the coast are actually they're taking advantage of the politics to gain political mileage. I mean, that is expected because that was blackmail. They were finding ways of blackmailing the ODM leader with an aim of gaining ground. It's time that almost 2022 is coming. The likes of Mohammed and the other Aisha Jumwa have interests in being political kingpins on the coast. And so one of the ways in which they can be able to dislodge and find themselves much more as political kingpins in that region is to stand with the people of the coast. And they feel that, and one of the ways to do that is to make the ODM leader appear like they have betrayed them. So
right.
I think for them, the they are using blackmail to make that happen. As to whether that will have effect, we are yet to see.
All right.
On the Jubilee side, there is not so much in terms of, the president has not so much to lose because his political capital is very strong. And so the leaders might not necessarily use this to blackmail the president to gain any. As a matter of fact, they need the president more than the president needs
They need the president more than the president needs them. Bringing us to the end of the conversation with you, Dr. Daktari. Thank you so much. Dr. Churchill Saoke, governance expert, talking to us about that controversial revenue sharing formula. And we asked you, do you think the controversial revenue sharing basis spells doom for the devolution? At KTN News KE, at Zeta Brenda, beginning with the hashtag KTN News Center. But let's look at a final story before we wrap up KTN News Center first hour. And President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga on actually today, 5th